to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today's video primarily going to look at the players potentially who may be leaving the club in the winter transfer window, either permanently or sent off on a loan to the end of the season, plus a few names being raised as possible Celtic transfer targets for the role of playing backup striker to Kyogo in the winter transfer window, and also a first brief look at Celtic's big game against St Mirren tomorrow at Celtic Park, tomorrow evening, a game which will be on live on pay-per-view Celtic TV, apparently for $12.99 for all those in United Kingdom and Ireland. Before we get going with the video, as always, just a request, if you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe to the channel, click the like button for the video, and also please do pass on the details of the channel to other Celtic fans or folk who are interested in Scottish football as potential subscribers to the channel. So, Brendan Rodgers, in his press conferences, has been talking about his feeling that Celtic squad is too big and that there is a plan to offload at least 7 players in the winter transfer window. Wasn't fully clear from his press conference and the reports whether this was getting rid of players permanently, i.e. transferring or terminating contracts, or looking to offload a few of the players on loan to get them first team experience. It certainly is one of the snags of our B team being rather restricted in who can play for it because of the rules of the loan league and the youth version of the Champions League, which means that players such as Kwon, Kobayashi, Tilio, etc. aren't really going to get a chance to get match fitness unless they get involved in friendly matches or inter-squad matches at Lennox Town, etc. And so there is a potential for sending some of these players out on loan. So, in terms of my speculation as to who I think the 7 that will be leaving Celtic in the transfer window, I think the number 1 on the list is James McCarthy. Apart from a few games in his first season with Celtic, he hasn't played for a couple of years for Celtic. He wasn't even in the Celtic squad photo this year, and clearly is not part of any plans at Celtic, but is taking home, it's rumoured, £14,000 a week. Celtic did try to offload him in the summer transfer window, but had no success. And I think again they'll look to let him go, probably on a free transfer. And I'm sure there will be some lower league clubs in Scotland and England who would be interested in him. The question being whether McCarthy is interested in going to them for likely a significant cut in his wages. The other opportunity would then be negotiated termination of his contract, which may be a more worthwhile offer for him. Another player I think is almost certain to go in the winter transfer window is Benjamin Siegrist. Again, he is a good goalkeeper, hasn't had much of a chance at Celtic, hasn't really let Celtic down when he has played for them, but definitely seems to be number 3 behind Bain and Hart. And given Rodgers' expressed intention of getting a new goalkeeper in, either in the winter window or the following summer window, I think Siegrist days are numbered at Celtic. Interestingly, on the same topic, Scott Bain, his contract is up at the end of the season. There were stories that he had signed an extension, but those seem not to be the case. And so both Bain and Hart have their contracts ending in May of 2024 at the end of the current season. Joe Hart seems to be in talks with Celtic to extend that and does appear to be willing to be the number 2 keeper at Celtic because he's enjoying his time in Glasgow and at the club so much. I think if Celtic were to sign another goalkeeper for definite in the winter window, I think then Scott Bain would be offloaded again, probably to a lower Scottish Premiership club or one of the promotion chasing Scottish Championship or English Championship clubs. I think another player who should be offloaded in the winter window is Mikey Johnson. He's been at Celtic for a very, very long time, I think since the age of 9. He's been in and out of the team, was back in the team rather surprisingly as a sub last Saturday. His first game for over a year and a half for Celtic. It's several years since he scored for Celtic, and he, for me, has always been a player that's flattered to deceive at Celtic. Shows a lot of promise, but really never ever delivers anything for Celtic, I feel. And I think he is a player that we should get rid of one way or another in the winter window. David Turnbull and the club don't seem in the least bit interested in extending his contract. And for that reason, I think Celtic should again offload him in the winter window, either for a small transfer fee, which would speed up his transition to whichever club he wants to play for in the 24-25 season. And the other player I think who is going to be sold in the winter transfer window is Alexandro Bernabei. Hasn't really worked out at all at left back for Celtic. I think his better position actually is probably a bit further forward, more as a left-sided midfielder or a left wing back, but that is not really the way of either Rodgers or his predecessor Postecoglou, and so I think that Bernabei will be on his way out in the winter window, and I think Celtic will look to try and recoup some or most of the £3.5 million transfer fee we paid a couple of years ago. It's very clear that Bernabei, for a variety of reasons, isn't in Rodgers' plans. He does appear to have had some timekeeping and other issues, and so I think he's on his way out. There are a couple of players I think that Celtic will look to loan. Ideally, I think these loans should be within Scotland or England rather than sending them back to their home countries. I think both Yuki Kobayashi, the central defender from Japan, and Kwon, the defensive midfielder from South Korea, both are at Celtic on long contracts. They're both very young men, clearly having problems settling down in Scotland. Kwon had a rather disastrous partial appearance in a friendly match and hasn't seen any sign of Celtic's squad ever since. I think he would again be a player that Celtic could look to send off on loan for the remainder of the season to a lower Premiership club, Championship club in Scotland, or a similar level in England, and similarly for Kobayashi. I think Kobayashi has the potential to come good for Celtic. He is the youngest of all the Japanese players that we got over under Ange Postecoglou. He did actually come with a very good reputation in younger level under 20, under 21 football from Japan, and is said to be on the fringes of the Japanese national squad, even though he hasn't played for Celtic at all this season. I personally would like to see Kwon and Kobayashi go off on loan either to the end of the season or possibly a 12 or 18-month loan, or something similar to that, just to give them time to get used to Scotland, get regular match practice, and come back more experienced and more aware of Scottish and British ways and the language, etc. Interestingly, we will actually have a player coming back to us from loan, which is uh, Yusuke Udeguchi, who has been loaned out to Fukuoka in the Japanese league. The Japanese season finishes in December, and so he would be, in theory, back at Celtic in January, February, and still does have a couple of years on his contract. He was rather unlucky with Celtic in that he got injured in his first game for Celtic with quite a major injury, then didn't play, and then was offloaded for a season in Japan. And he has apparently played exceedingly well in Japan, playing a variety of midfield roles, and also played a couple of times as an emergency striker, and has actually been a key factor in the success of his team this season. I would be surprised if Rodgers welcomed him back into the squad with an intention of playing him, but more likely, I suspect he'll be sold back to Fukuoka in Japan or loaned back to them with a view to a purchase at the end of the loan. One other thing I think we need to prepare ourselves for in the winter transfer window will be the transfer of Matt O'Reilly. He is attracting attention from a lot of top level teams in the English Premier League. Primarily Arsenal are said to be very highly interested in him, also said to be very highly sought after by teams such as Brighton, even some rumours of Postecoglou looking to take him to Spurs, and has also had links to some of the Serie A teams in Italy. I think Celtic can certainly be looking at a transfer fee north of 30 million, and there's even talks of something even up to 50 million with the way that the current transfer market is. I think O'Reilly's star is very much at its height, and I think probably the lure of the top leagues in England, Italy, Spain, etc., will be too much for him, and I expect he'll be off. Good thing is, we do actually have several midfield backups to take his place, such as Iwata, Home, and Bernardo, and I do think that if O'Reilly goes, we'll be certain to buy Bernardo at the end of his loan fee. Two main positions that Rodgers is said to be looking for are a second striker or backup striker to Kyogo to accompany O, who doesn't seem so much in Rodgers' plans, although I do actually think O is a player who, if given a chance and some regular starts, would actually prove to be a good player for Celtic. And O also does appear to be happy to play off the bench currently as well, which is a bonus. Two players Celtic were said to be interested in the summer transfer window just at the start of the season were Matthias Kiesgarden from Brøndby in Denmark and Sidney van Hooijdonk, who is a Dutch under-21 player, the son of an ex-player of ours, Pierre van Hooijdonk. And he's currently at Bologna in Serie A. He has had 8 games for Bologna and is yet to score for them. However, has had spells in Dutch top league football and has scored heavily in Dutch football. And of the two, I think Sidney van Hooijdonk might be a bit better suited to Celtic. Also would give Celtic a change of player, and that he's more of a a bit more of a target man, a lot better in the air. However, is good with both feet and is a good goal scorer. 6 foot tall, 6'3" tall rather, and 23 years old, and so would actually be, I think, a very good player to come to Celtic. A little bit more in the role and model of Giakoumakis, who was a success under Ange Postecoglou before his transfer off to Major League Soccer. Keith Garden, a bit more of a Kyogo style player, who does, for me, remind myself a lot of Henrik Larsson in terms of his speed, his ability to hold up the ball, and his ability to finish goals. Pretty good for a man of 5'8" in the air, and also, as I said, strong for holding off challenges and breaking through into the box. I think both players would be good additions to Celtic, and I think both would be available for transfer in the winter window. It's said that Keith Garden came very, very close to signing for Celtic, with Bromby wanting to hold him onto him for at least half a more season prior to their break, and so wouldn't be too surprised if one or other of those comes to Celtic in the winter window. The other two players being linked with Celtic in terms of a transfer in the winter window, both of whom I'm a little bit less keen on, are Lon Shankland, the Hearts captain, who has been a success, admittedly, with Hearts over the last couple of seasons, has got himself onto the fringes of the Scotland squad. However, I'm not sure he has the quality to move up to play for Celtic on a regular basis, or be a factor for us in European football. Other player is Bojan Majowski at Aberdeen, North Macedonian international. He has 20 league goals from 42 league matches for Aberdeen over the last couple of seasons. Majowski, 24 years old, so 4 years younger than Shankland, might be a better option for us. However, the drawback with Majowski would, of course, be that he is an overseas player, and so would create problems with the UEFA coefficient and the UEFA quotients and quotas for squads for European matches. Again, not convinced that Majowski would be able to step up to play for Celtic, particularly stepping up to play for Celtic at the top level in Europe. But probably he's a better bet than Shankland, being that bit younger and having had regular international experience also. However, feel free to pop your own opinions regarding who Celtic should be looking for in the next transfer window, and also who you think should be on the chopping block for moving on in the winter window, who you think are the 7 players that Rodgers is eyeing up to get rid of one way or the other in January. Final, just a brief look forward to Celtic's match against St Mirren on Wednesday. St Mirren obviously having had a good start to the season, remaining in good form. A team last season that we did end up drawing with 2-2 in our last match. However, in all the other matches, we won comfortably or very comfortably. I think Celtic will come back on Wednesday with a much better performance. I think the support of a packed Celtic Park will help. I think also for quite a lot of the players, they've had a bit of a kick up the arse from the fans, from the pundits, and I suspect also from Rodgers and the coaching staff. Also think that the extra couple of days of rest will have done players like Maeda and Kyogo and O'Reilly a ton of good, and I think they'll come back fighting fit and fresh on Wednesday. Only real conundrum for Rodgers, I think, is going to be who to play in replacing Hatate going forward. Bernardo appears to be the player with the job at the moment. I personally would go for Tomoki Iwata, using Iwata more in McGregor's role and pushing McGregor forward into Hatate's role. Hatate's role with Celtic in the recent matches has been more of a box-to-box midfielder, working hard in midfield but getting forward and also coming back to support McGregor and the back four. And I think McGregor is ideal for that. Iwata is also perfectly able, although he technically is more of a defensive midfielder, he's also perfectly capable of playing box to box as well. And as we saw against Hearts, is able to finish with a good shot, and is a very creative player and good at breaking up play, intercepting and tackling. And I think personally, given that Iwata is also 26, that bit more experienced, has international experience, was the J League Player of the Year prior to coming to Celtic, I think all these are factors that I would probably go for Iwata as the starter to cover for Hatate until the new year, and having Bernardo and Holm coming off the bench to when Iwata or O'Reilly, etc., is requiring a bit of a rest. But I suspect that probably Rodgers will go for Bernardo, and if he does go for Bernardo, I think again he should persist with Bernardo on a continuing basis, fitness and form reliant up until Hatate gets back. But I think chopping and changing that position is going to cause difficulties for Holm, Iwata, or Bernardo. I don't personally see any future in having David Turnbull playing in that role or coming off the bench. And I think Celtic, as I said earlier on, should look to offload him. Going to do a more full preview of the St Mirren match tomorrow morning. And trying to get the video out as early as possible tomorrow morning so it's available for people to watch prior to the game in the evening. But for now, that's all done for today. Please, if you can, do click the subscribe button, click the like button for the video, have a wee look at the trivia question in the community section, and if you can, pass on details of the channel to friends and family and Celtic fans and anyone else who thinks interested. And also do pop comments in the comment section regards who you feel should be the long-term replacement for Hatate until the new year, and also who the 7 Celtic should try and get rid of in the winter window, and if there are any players you particularly think should be targeted by Celtic to come in to supplement the squad for the rest of the season and next year. So, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, goodbye, and hail, hail.